Welcome to today's deep dive. We're looking at a massive stack of sources today,
We really are, yeah.
ranging from like feminist political theory and sociological data on unpaid household labor to some pretty recent analyses of internet subcultures.
It's a heavy stack.
It is. And our mission here is to uncover the hidden contracts, the unspoken societal expectations and the raw economic realities that really govern women's bodies and labor.
Right, because these forces, they operate out in the open and public spaces, but they also function behind the closed doors of marriage.
Exactly. But to really to understand the modern mechanics of these hidden contracts,
Yeah.
we actually need to start by looking at a very recent, very viral moment from a stadium concert.
Oh, yeah, the Usher concert.
Right. So picture this. You're at a massive arena for a stop on the Usher and Chris Brown R&B tour.
Okay.
The lights go down, the crowd is absolutely deafening, and suddenly you are pulled out of your seat and led up onto the main stage.
Which sounds terrifying for some people.
Completely. And the music shifts to this slow, sensual beat. A shirtless, multi-platinum R&B star starts closing in on you, dancing intimately, and he is clearly expecting you to just swoon.
Like he expects you to just melt.
Yes. But instead of melting into his arms, you just stand there, stiff, poker-faced, visibly uncomfortable.
And that is literally exactly the position a 24-year-old nurse named Gabrielle Cheyenne found herself in at a recent Nashville show.
Right.
Usher brought her on stage for a sensual performance of his song, Can You Handle It? But when she didn't play along with the fantasy, the atmosphere in that arena just completely fractured.
It really did.
Usher actually stopped the music. He looked out at the crowd, smirked, and announced, "I don't think she want to be on the stage," before signaling his security to escort her off.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Okay.
Because watching the footage of that moment and the absolute avalanche of internet backlash that hit this poor woman over the next 48 hours,
It was intense.
it was. It felt like she had won a raffle she never entered for a prize she didn't actually want, and then found herself getting booed by 20,000 people for not cheering loud enough.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
Right. And when she finally spoke out, her perspective made total sense. She explained that she and her mom had bought floor seats, but the venue randomly upgraded them to VIP.
Yeah, she had no idea she was going to be pulled on stage, let alone for which artist.
Exactly. And she even specified she went to the concert primarily for Chris Brown, not Usher.
But the internet trolls descended on her regardless. I mean, the comments were ruthless. People accused her of fumbling a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. They called her mean.
Mean.
Yeah, they aggressively questioned why she would even step foot on the stage if she wasn't gonna, play the game.
But she refused to back down, which I love. She posted on social media and essentially said, I looked good as he thought I wasn't going to let thousands of people see me.
It's great energy.
I honestly love it. But the backlash wasn't just from anonymous trolls, right?
No, it wasn't. Usher himself made a pretty petty comment at a later Vegas show.
Right, what did he say?
He basically warned the crowd not to come on stage if they didn't want to be there, and then he added, "God don't like ugly, but most certainly doesn't feel too good about pretty privilege either."
Yikes. So speaking of that reaction, the sheer irritation from Usher and the fury from the internet, it perfectly illustrates this crucial concept we found in the sources.
Yeah, in the writing of philosopher Kate Mann in her book Entitled, as well as an analysis from Everyday Feminism,
Right.
they outline this pervasive cultural phenomenon called male sexual entitlement.
And this is basically the deeply normalized societal belief that men are inherently owed sex, admiration, or access to women's bodies simply by virtue of being men.
Exactly. It frames female sexuality and female attention as resources that exist primarily to validate men.
So the social script dictates that when a powerful, attractive man bestows his attention on a woman, her only acceptable role is to be this passive, endlessly grateful recipient.
And when a woman deviates from that script, when she asserts her own boundaries or simply refuses to perform that expected gratitude, the reaction is rarely confusion.
It's anger.
It is almost always anger, mockery, or punishment. A perceived entitlement has been thwarted. So society looks at Gabrielle Cheyenne and doesn't see a woman who was caught off guard. Society sees a woman who denied a man his due.
Right. And our sources break down how this entitlement operates far beyond stadium stages. I mean, it permeates everyday interactions.
No, absolutely. Take the classic nice guy syndrome.
Yeah.
It's this mindset where a man believes that performing basic etiquette, being polite, or offering friendship is essentially a token that can be inserted into a vending machine.
And sex or romantic affection is the product that should just automatically drop out.
Exactly. And when the vending machine doesn't dispense the product, the resulting anger is often terrifying. We see the absolute extreme end of the spectrum in the research we have from Crest on incels, or involuntary celibates.
Right, which is a very dark corner of the internet.
It really is. The incel worldview is constructed on a highly toxic, militant form of male supremacism. Their ideology relies heavily on something they call the 80-20 rule.
Which is their distortion of the Pareto principle applied to dating.
Yeah. They argue that the top 80% of women only desire the top 20% of the most attractive men.
And they use terms like lookism to claim they're victims of a genetic caste system.
Yes.
Arguing they're being actively discriminated against based purely on their facial aesthetics or height.
And they combine that victimhood with the concept of hypergamy, asserting that women are these ruthless sexual gatekeepers always looking to trade up for a better mate.
Right.
The Ohio Domestic Violence Network data provided in our stack unpacks the mechanics of this. When hypermasculinity and patriarchal norms validate a man's need for control, and that man feels his inherent biological entitlement to women's bodies is being denied.
It creates a profound sense of humiliation.
Exactly. And for extremists, that humiliation metastasizes into explosive, often violent rage.
But wait, I have to push back a little here. Like, isn't there a huge difference between a dangerous internet extremist and just an everyday guy who gets his ego bruised by a rejection?
Well, sure.
Like a guy throwing a tantrum at a concert because a girl won't dance with him is obnoxious, and a guy getting mad at a bar because a woman rejected his drink is pathetic. But it feels like a massive leap to compare those everyday behaviors to violent extremist manifestos.
Oh, the behaviors themselves are vastly different in severity. I mean, an awkward encounter at a bar is obviously not a violent crime.
Right.
But the underlying architecture is identical. The sources argue that we are looking at different symptoms born from the exact same cultural water we are all swimming in.
And that water is an attitude that overvalues male sexuality and treats women's bodies as a public resource.
Precisely. Whether it is expressed as a deadly mass shooting by a radicalized extremist, or simply a man calling a woman a terrible name on the street because she didn't smile at his catcall, the foundational premise operating in the background is the same.
You owe me.
You owe me.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so if this expectation of compliance, this baseline assumption that women owe men their time and bodies is so deeply entrenched in our public spaces and dating culture, what happens when we codify it into law?
Well, that forces us to look at the institution of marriage.
Right. Because moving from the public sphere to the private sphere, if this entitlement is so pervasive in pop culture, how is it legally and historically enforced behind closed doors?
To answer that, we have to examine Carol Pateman's seminal 1988 book, The Sexual Contract.
Okay.
For centuries, political philosophers like John Locke and Jean-Jacques Rousseau wrote extensively about the social contract.
Right, the foundational idea of modern democracy, that free, equal men willingly consent to be governed in order to create a functioning civil society.
Yeah, but Pateman points out that these philosophers conveniently omitted the sexual contract. She argues that modern civil society isn't just built on a democratic agreement between men. It is built on a patriarchal foundation, where men collectively agree to the subjugation and possession of women.
Wow. Pateman presents a fiercely debated perspective on traditional marriage, doesn't she?
She really does. She argues that historically, marriage has functioned primarily as a mechanism for a man to gain legal, exclusive sexual access and domestic labor.
She actually goes as far as comparing traditional marriage to legal prostitution, where the husband basically purchases patriarchal rights over a subordinate wife.
And Andrea Dworkin's book, Intercourse, aligns with this too. She details how mainstream culture often depicts heterosexual sex not as a mutual joining, but almost as an occupation of women.
Like a conquering of territory.
Exactly. And to grasp why Pateman and Dworkin use such intense theoretical frameworks, referring to wives as essentially unpaid sex workers bound by contract, you have to look at the actual legal mechanics they were critiquing.
Right, because this wasn't just theoretical back then.
Not at all.
Yeah.
According to the Vox mental health source on duty sex, patriarchal structures didn't just casually encourage submission, they legally mandated women as property. Under the historical English common law doctrine of coverture, a woman's legal identity was quite literally extinguished the moment she married.
Let's break down how coverture actually worked in practice.
Yeah.
Because if a single woman owned a business, had a bank account, or signed a contract, the second she said, "I do," all of that just vanished.
Poof.
Gone.
In the eyes of the law, the husband and wife became one single person, and that person was the husband.
Yeah. She couldn't own property, she couldn't keep her own wages, and she couldn't sue anyone.
And that concept of ownership birthed one of the most horrifying legal precedents in history.
The marital rape exemption.
The marital rape exemption. Because the legal assumption was that the marriage contract itself constituted perpetual, irrevocable consent.
Right. By marrying him, she had given him permanent access to her body. Therefore, a husband could not legally be charged with assaulting his own wife.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because we aren't talking about medieval history here. The marital rape exemption wasn't fully criminalized in all 50 U.S. states until 1993.
1993. I mean, in Canada, it was 1983.
That is well within the lifetime of a massive portion of the population. A legal framework that profound doesn't just evaporate from the cultural consciousness the day the law changes.
No, it leaves a lingering toxic residue.
It does. The Vox source details how this legacy creates a modern environment of invisible coercion, leading to duty sex.
And this is the widespread phenomenon where women engage in physical intimacy not out of enthusiastic desire, but out of a sense of obligation.
Or a fear of marital dissatisfaction or deep-seated religious conditioning that tells them their body belongs to their spouse.
It's exactly like signing a binding terms of service agreement.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
You know when you sign up for a new piece of software and you just click accept without reading the 70 pages of microscopic legal jargon?
Right. Who reads those?
Nobody. Pateman's view of traditional marriage suggests that women have historically been pushed to click accept on a societal contract, only to eventually realize the currency being traded in the fine print is their own bodily autonomy.
Yes. And if bodily autonomy is the currency used to pay for the sexual expectations of this hidden contract, what happens when we examine the actual day-to-day maintenance of a household?
Because it demands not just physical intimacy, but a staggering amount of physical and emotional labor.
Which brings us to Sylvia Federici's incredibly influential 1974 essay, Wages Against Housework.
She sums up the entire dynamic in one brilliant quote. "They say it is love. We say it is unwaged work."
It's so powerful. Federici argues that the modern role of the housewife was quite literally engineered by capitalism.
How so?
Think about the mechanics of an early 20th century factory town. The factory owner pays a male worker a wage to assemble cars for 10 hours a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the owner doesn't pay for the man's meals to be cooked, his uniform to be washed, his emotional exhaustion to be soothed, or the rearing of the children who will eventually become the next generation of factory workers.
Capitalism absolutely relies on the wife performing all of that vital survival labor completely for free.
Exactly. If she didn't do it, the factory owner would have to pay the man double just so he could survive and return to work the next day.
So Federici writes about how the combination of mending socks, patching up crushed egos, and providing sex creates an invisible, burdensome servitude.
And the most insidious mechanism of all is the marketing campaign behind it.
Society rebranded all of this unpaid labor as female nature.
Yes. So if a woman demands compensation or simply refuses to do the laundry and manage the emotional temperature of the house, she isn't viewed as a worker on strike.
She is told there is something biologically or morally defective about her.
Exactly. And this framework is reinforced by social exchange theory, which is broken down in the MIT source.
Right. Looking at heterosexual communities, this theory observes how sex and domestic care are often treated as female commodities.
Women exchange these commodities for respect, physical security, or financial resources.
So the theory positions women as the gatekeepers of sexuality, constantly motivated to keep the price of their commodity high by managing their reputations and controlling access.
Let's look at the actual receipts, though. The hard modern data on this exchange, because it proves this unequal contract, is still fully operational today.
Yes, the Gender Equity Policy Institute, or GEPI, along with Arlie Hochschild's famous sociological study, The Second Shift, they measured the exact volume of this unpaid labor.
And what they found is staggering. GEPI found that in an average week, women spend 2.2 times as much time on unpaid childcare and housework as men.
We are talking about women spending 12.6 hours a week cooking and cleaning, compared to men spending just 5.7 hours.
And the crucial detail in the GEPI data is that this disparity isn't triggered by motherhood.
Wait, really?
No, this unequal division of labor activates the moment women enter adulthood. Women ages 18 to 24 are already spending double the time on household work as their male peers.
Wow.
Even married women without children perform 2.3 times as much housework as their husbands.
Which creates this massive, quantifiable, free time gender gap. Men literally have an extra 7 or 8 hours in their week to relax, socialize, sleep, or pursue hobbies that further their careers.
purely because women are quietly doing the invisible labor required to keep life running.
And when you combine that physical labor gap with what the digital USD source calls the pleasure gap, the picture gets incredibly bleak.
Oh, the pleasure gap, yeah. That refers to the persistent, documented devaluation of women's sexual pleasure in heterosexual relationships.
Because the research shows women routinely fake orgasms and frequently prioritize male comfort over their own physical pain just to maintain the peace and be deemed good partners.
They are performing emotional and physical labor even during the most intimate moments of their lives.
It's like women are expected to be the customer service representatives of their own bedrooms.
Oh, man.
Prioritizing the client's satisfaction and smoothing over any friction, even if they themselves are having a terrible experience.
That's a grim way to put it, but it's accurate.
But so what does this all mean, I have to ask?
Yeah.
If we start treating intimacy, doing laundry, and being a supportive partner like a cold transactional economy, don't we destroy the entire concept of love and romance?
You know, that is the exact criticism people leveled at Federici when she published Wages Against Housework.
I can imagine.
But she anticipated it. She clarified that the demand for wages wasn't a literal demand for husbands to hand their wives a physical paycheck at the end of every week.
Okay.
It is a political perspective designed to shock the system.
It's about making the invisible visible.
Yes. Federici argues that true love cannot exist in a system of economic coercion. The goal of pointing out the transactional nature of these hidden contracts is to expose the power dynamics underlying them.
So only by refusing to call this exploitation female nature can we actually clear away the coercion.
Exactly. Once the playing field is financially and socially equal, we can eventually discover what actual love, romance, and sexuality might look like.
Completely free from dependence.
Free from dependence, yeah.
It's about turning on the lights in the room so you can actually read the contract you were being asked to sign.
I love that.
Which brings all these threads together for you listening. Whether you are navigating the modern dating world, figuring out how to split chores in a shared apartment, or just scrolling on your phone watching a pop star throw a fit on stage.
Understanding these hidden contracts gives you the power to actually renegotiate them.
And the takeaway from the Vox mental health professionals provides the blueprint for that renegotiation, doesn't it?
It really does. True consent, whether it's regarding physical intimacy or just who manages the household calendar, must be enthusiastic.
Right.
It must be ongoing, and it must be revocable. You are always allowed to change your mind.
The ultimate goal is what the researchers term sexual equity, the absolute equal prioritization of both partners' pleasure, comfort, and free time.
Because it all ties back to how society values, or rather devalues, women's labor.
Exactly. And I want to leave you with a fascinating piece of context from the Eric's sex education source. They argue that historically, federal sex education in the United States has acted as a straightening device.
A straightening device.
Yeah, a curriculum intentionally designed to push women toward traditional heterosexual marriage, specifically to protect the capitalist economy.
Because the entire global economy relies on a foundation of free domestic labor to function.
So imagine this thought experiment. What if society were suddenly forced to pay fair market monetary value for every single act of emotional support, every load of laundry folded, every meal cooked, every child reared, and every instance of coerced duty sex provided by women throughout history?
The numbers are unfathomable. The global economy would instantly bankrupt itself.
Instantly.
It forces a massive question. What would our world look like tomorrow if all of that invisible, unpaid labor suddenly went on strike?
It really makes you rethink those few seconds at the Usher concert, doesn't it?
It really does.
Gabrielle Cheyenne didn't just refuse to dance.
Yeah.
In a very public, highly visible way, she refused to sign the invisible terms of service.
Yeah, she won the raffle, stepped up to the stage, looked at the prize society, told her she was supposed to desperately want, and basically said, "No thanks, I'm good."
And maybe that's exactly why 20,000 people got so incredibly uncomfortable.
Because it is profoundly jarring to watch someone casually reject a contract the rest of us have been conditioned to blindly accept.
Something to mull over the next time you find yourself doing the emotional heavy lifting in a room. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.